And we are recording. So, g'day, Cass. How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you going?
Not too bad, not too bad. So, obviously, for the audience's purposes, this has been pre-recorded at 10 o'clock Friday, the 6th of March. And we have Cass Smith here, aka Catherine from the Freedom Financial Solutions. And we're just having a quick joke before FFS. And the first thing that popped into my head in the classy bogan sophistication that I'm used to, for fuck's sake. So maybe we could start with tell us a little bit about the Freedom Financial Solutions, which I believe started around that COVID period, much as the North Queensland Freedom Network did.
Yeah. So you're right about the FFS and what the acronym actually means. And
Cool.
So how we started was I've been an accountant for 30 odd years, an accountant, financial planner, mortgage broker, real estate agent, property advisor, justice of peace, among other things. But like a lot of people, when COVID hit, it wasn't that I got the sack or anything because I was self-employed running my own firms, but I just gave up. It was like everything I've ever done in the financial world, helping people build property portfolios and share portfolios and saving for retirement, work your whole life to put enough aside to retire. I mean, what a load of bullshit.
So when you say
So
what a load of bullshit, how does that come into, like, how did that collapse?
because I think, well, I've been awake for a very, very long time. COVID was just like the icing on the cake for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I just realized it really, I think COVID in general and seeing what was coming with the government's rules and regulations and the lockdowns, the mandates and everything, it just made me wake up to the fact that no matter how much money you've got, you're not free.
Yeah.
And no matter how much money you've got, you're not necessarily happy. And
Mm.
some of my happiest clients that I dealt with throughout the period sold everything they've got and bought a van and traveled Australia. And they were really happy.
Wow.
So it just changed my perspective as an accountant and I was a financial planner as well. It just changed my whole perspective. And I just went, what's all this for? What's all this
Yeah.
working so hard? What's all this saving every cent so that in 40 years' time you can live a good life? Are we going to be here in 40 years' time? Are we going to be here in
Mm.
4 years' time?
Yeah.
So I basically I quit my practices, I sold them off, I stepped down and I started running the rallies in Canberra. And in the first rally, we only had about 10 people. The second one, about 50. And then we had one
Yeah.
where we had 1,000, and that was just like mind blowing. 1,000
Mm-hmm.
awake people in Canberra. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
But they'd come
And it
from out
snowballed
of
from
Canberra.
there, eh?
Yeah, there was not many Canberra people. They were from like Cooma and Wagga and all the surrounding areas. And
Mm.
but that was motivating. And then of course we moved on to the convoy to Canberra and Epic, and that was just epic, as anyone who went knows.
Yep.
And so that when Freedom Financial Solutions came into existence. So I was driving home thinking, yeah, I should still be helping people financially, just in a different way. And so,
Mm.
what can I name a new company for fuck's sake? Oh, for FFS, Freedom Financial Solutions, FFS. And that's where it came about. And it also came about because I was giving speeches on the stages in the rallies. But I was talking about the mandates, and I was talking about my son, who was a professional footballer who got forced into what he got forced into do to keep his career. That was just stupid. That was back when the NRL were playing in empty stadiums,
Yep.
just for the TV. It was like the Hunger Games. Send those
Mm.
kids out there. They've got to wear their mask while they're sitting on the sideline, but then as soon as they run on, they can take off their mask and tackle each other
Ridiculous.
and sweat all over each other. And
Yep.
so I was on the stage talking about my son because I had kept him poison free his entire life, like right from a baby, never had anything.
Mm.
And then now he had to have it to keep his NRL career. So as I was talking about, and then right at the end of my speech, I just said, and by the way, if anyone's got any superannuation, get it out of super and get it into gold. And I just threw that as a passing comment as I left the stage. And then it just went from there. Everyone just wanted to know what I meant. And
Yeah.
then we set up Freedom Financial Solutions, and our business increased 2,000%. We
Wow.
were setting up 10 to 20 self-managed super funds a day. And we have probably moved, I'm going to have to add it up one day, but we have moved billions of people's money out of the online super systems and into physical gold and silver. And since then, gold and silver's done anywhere between 100 to 200%, depending when you bought it. So, yeah, we've got some very, very happy clients.
Silver's made a huge move since those periods too. I think about nearly 5 times what its original value was in some cases. I haven't looked at it today, but you know, there's a bit of a fluctuation.
When I say
going
gold,
on
it was gold and silver I was putting people into. Oh, I can't say I was putting people into because I'm no longer a financial advisor. All I can say is it's my opinion, and if I was you, and what I have been doing is 50% gold, 50% silver. And yeah, it's worked out really, really well.
So you say you're no longer a financial advisor. I'm assuming that the company's still running, you're just operating it in a different way.
Yeah, so there's a lot of a misnomer about financial advisors. People think, or financial planner, people think a financial planner is going to help you plan your financial world, right? And I always get myself in trouble saying this, but I say it anyway. The term financial planner, FP, to me stands for flogging product, because all a financial planner does is sell you managed funds and share portfolios and insurance products. They don't do anything really other than sell you something because they get a really high commission. So I was a financial planner just because I needed that license to say some of the things I used to say. But the funny thing is, as a financial planner, I couldn't tell the truth because I wasn't allowed to recommend gold and silver or property as a financial planner. I had to only recommend the share market because that's what my license said I had to do. So
that's interesting.
not being a
Licensed
financial planner.
to lie.
Yeah,
as a
licensed
financial
to lie.
planner, you're licensed to lie. What an interesting concept.
But as
And it
soon as
makes
I
a lot of
ripped up
sense because I've come across the financial planner, sorry to cut you off, in the past, and I was disappointed because all they would is try and sell me the mercantile mutual and those sorts of things. You know, I'm like, well, that's not what I'm here for. I want actual, you know, real financial advice.
And that's what everybody says. So as soon as I ripped up that ticket, I was then now allowed to give my personal opinion on anything I wanted because I was no longer controlled by the person who issued the firm, which is, so it's interesting because the licenses are often issued by AMP and all the funds. They are the ones that issue the license, and then they license their financial planners to sell their own products at a huge commission.
Wow.
But as soon as I rip up the piece of paper, I can say whatever I want. But I'm also still a licensed accountant, tax agent, mortgage broker, real estate agent, property advisor. So those licenses are a lot more flexible in that we are allowed to have an opinion and we are allowed to, you know, say what's on our mind.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
I did not know that. So thank you for sharing that. Obviously, the reason I contacted you, you'd put out a video recently, or at least I seen it recently, regarding the tax file number not being, you know, imposed upon us. So I can't remember the exact wording you had for it, that, you know, you don't have to have one, sort of thing. And I thought that was an interesting observation, and it's something that I had heard before. You don't have to have a tax file number, but obviously we're all aware if you don't issue one, they just tax you to the nth degree. Is there another relevance to that I'm unaware of?
No, I'm still investigating it, and I've got that video. There's another 4 videos coming out over the next few days. I'm hoping to leave the country before they hit, where I do go.
That good, eh?
Where I do go into it in more detail. I have not yet found the solution because, as you say, you don't have to have one. But then, if you work for someone, they're going to tax you at the highest rate, etc., etc. But I am looking at some very alternative options, but I don't want to release it and have people running out there and doing crazy things until I'm absolutely sure that this is going to work for everyone. So basically watch this space. I'm on it. And I also have made it public on Facebook. I'm not suicidal. I don't drive too fast. I don't stand near cliffs. I know how much medication to take. I'm not in any way but the thing is, I've pre-recorded all of my information anyway. and it's backed up and it's stored in lots of locations. So it's getting out there no matter what over the next couple of weeks.
Awesome. Well, we look forward to seeing that. So is Facebook the main method in which people can find what you're doing?
Yeah, at the moment, but I have been told that my Facebook video is now getting cut off halfway through.
Might be time to try Twitter or something like that, or the artist formerly known as Twitter, sorry.
Yeah, so I will have to get some things out there, and then I'll put it on my Facebook where to go and have a look, so this information gets out there. But yeah, so what I've said in the next one that you might not have seen, but I was in the tax department for a very long time, 11 years, and they were grooming me for leadership. They paid for me to do a whole lot of study, 14 years worth of university, including my master's degree in tax law. So they gave me a lot of good information, which was really good. And then I quit because I got upset with some of the things that happened.
Okay, and is that something that's happened in the company or from what you'd learned, and then, or a combination perhaps?
Yeah, no, these were things back in the tax department that I learnt, and at the time, it didn't sit well with me, and their policies and the way I was not allowed to speak my truth in the tax department, and things where I was basically coerced into fraudulent behaviour in the tax department.
Oh, wow.
I quit. I walked away from the tax department, just went, this is all bullshit. I don't care that you've just paid for 14 years of my university education. I'm out of here. And at the time, I actually just quit and went to the beach and raised my children for a few years. I didn't want anything to do with the tax system. But then now I feel that where everything that's happened, and now we're sort of 25 years later, you know, they say everything happens for a reason. I believe I was set up with all that information and all that education. And then 20 years in my own accountancy practice, helping clients basically try and minimize their taxes as much as possible, but getting more and more frustrated with the tax system because, you know, every loophole or everything we could try and do to minimize tax, they just change the laws till the point where they've got us screwed down by the bloody, whatever you want to call it. You know, they've got us backed into every corner, you know, and it's only going to get worse. They're now planning dropping the 50% capital gains exemption and bringing in an inheritance tax, and they'll probably try the unrealized gains tax again. They're just, you know, if you think about the inheritance tax, which is what I believe is coming. So we work our guts off, pay horrendous amounts of tax on every dollar that we earn. Then we pay horrendous amount of tax on every dollar that we spend. The GST, the fuel excise, you know, the list is this long, stamp duties, everything. Then what we do manage to accumulate and maybe save something and buy a house, and it goes up in value. So when we die, we've got something to leave to the next generation. And that next generation's got to bloody need it because they're struggling. Now they want to take 30 to 40% of everything when we die.
It's insane, isn't it? I can't believe Labor actually attempted to put that as an election-winning campaign a few runs ago. I think it was under Bill Shorten. That was they openly said that's what they wanted. It's like, are you for real? Haven't you taken enough? But you know,
sorry, keep going.
No, so I mean, you know, where obviously does that leave us? What's my motivation here? You know, like you got the people pointing fingers at, you know, the alleged dole bludgers, you know, or Centrelink bludgers as they call it now, because they rebranded the concept. But you know, again, what's the motivation? You know, I couldn't begrudge anybody any opportunity to, you know, gain something back in any way, shape, or form, especially if you actually need it. You know, it's obviously what these systems are there in place for, is to help people when they're down and out. But, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that see it as a tax refund as well, considering we're not getting tax refunds anymore thanks to the elbow government and the way they've manipulated things. You know, I think this is the first time ever I've not seen an actual tax return. It's, you know, a lot of people coming back with bills. You know, I think I got like $2 or something. It's like, wow, you know, and I'd spent a lot of stuff, you know. That's it. But I'd spent a lot on things that I obviously needed, and I'd gone a little bit over, going, it's all right, I'm going to get that back, you know. But no, didn't get anything back. You know, I was really pissed off.
Yeah, and that's the way everyone's feeling, and they're just putting the screws down more and more. And you know, it's horrible what's happening in the world at the moment. But this is the time the government will use the excuse of the war. I mean, this is why they brought tax in the first place, because apparently we need the money for the war. So you can just see the writing on the wall. They'll be saying we need all this money because the economy's crumbling and because we need more weapons or whatever. So we have no choice but to introduce these extra taxes. And yeah, it's all coming down the line. So yeah, as I was saying, I believe everything happens for a reason. So I think all of the education and knowledge I was given, and the amount of times I've just wanted to walk away from everything and just like, I don't even want to know about tax anymore, but it keeps coming back. It's like a revolving loop. So I actually really feel I'm here in the position I'm in to use all the knowledge I've got to try and work out a better system.
So let's talk about that knowledge. Like you said, you had 14 years of, university. That seems like an excessive amount of university. Personally, I struggled with would say probably about 13 to 14 years prep and kinder in just, the standard education system. I couldn't imagine going through another stint of what I call socialist indoctrination. Share a little bit about the university experience and what you've done and what you've learned.
Yeah, well, it was actually 20 years because the 14 years was just in tax.
Wow.
Then I went on and did another 6 years in financial planning and finance and property and everything else. So, and I was a real nerd. I didn't just study. I was top 1% of every class. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, a really intense indoctrination. But it's really funny. As I've said, I've been awake for a very long time. It wasn't COVID. I was, when people ask me when did I wake up, I was literally born awake.
Yeah.
So the entire time, even when I was studying, I would just be questioning myself and going, but what for? But why? And
Yeah.
and even when I remember lining up to get my first accounting degree and thinking to myself, why did I do this? But then I went on to do my master's degree in tax, and then I went on to then I didn't like tax, so I thought, well, I'll try financial planning, and then I did that. Then I thought, that's all bullshit too. So I went on and did mortgage broking, but I did like mortgage broking. Getting someone a good home loan is a rewarding feeling.
Yeah.
And then I went on to do real estate, which is rewarding to get people into good properties. But I could always see through the indoctrination, and I learned it all, but it was almost like I was learning it I've got a very rebellious nature. I've been a rebel my whole life. I don't even know why I'm still alive because of the things I've done out of rebellion. And so I was learning it, but always with a rebellious nature of, oh yeah, but if the law says that, what if we did this?
Yeah.
One of my thesis papers was whether accounting is an art or a science. And I
And what did you
concluded
conclude?
very, very convincingly that it's an art
Yeah.
because there are so many variables to it. 1 + 1 does not necessarily equal 2.
So Einstein was right when he was standing in front of that blackboard is 2 + 2 = 5.
Yeah, 2 + 2 could equal 5 because it could be 2 + 6 + 2.6.
There you go.
Yeah.
I
Or 2
always
+ 2.
figured perhaps
Yeah.
the positive symbol itself carried a value. What if the positive symbol carries a value in itself? Symbol of
Yeah, it should
1.
do, but then how many decimal points? And then as a creative accountant, so that's what I've specialized in for the last 20 years, is being a very creative accountant. So, a client comes to me and wants advice, and it's like, well, okay, who are we preparing this for, the tax office or the bank?
Yeah.
Because there's two
So what
very
do they
different
want to
outcomes.
hear?
Yeah. And then that creativity, as I've said, as the years have gone by, they've just put every screw into every different possible way of minimizing tax. And once it all goes to the digital economy, that's it. We're screwed.
Mm,
There will be no
mm.
planning for anything at that stage unless we just get out of the system, which is what I'm trying to find a way to do.
Yeah, that seems to be the pot of gold at the rainbow that everyone's looking for, is that how to get out of the system. But obviously that leaves you at a serious disadvantage because all the services and things that come with that system are something we've all become quite accustomed to in a lot of ways. So,
Yeah.
I mean, 14 years in just taxation education. Where the hell does that leave the average Joe who's, you know, much like myself, standard high school education, couldn't bear to do any more schooling if my life depended on it? That seems to leave us at a serious disadvantage if you took 14 years to learn tax law and it's still changing.
Still changing. And that was one of my frustrations, that when I got the master's degree in tax law, they actually asked me to do my doctorate. So I would have been a PhD. I would have been a doctor of tax. Another 3,
Wow.
I think it was only 2.5 years. And I would have been a doctor of tax. And at that stage I quit, and I just went, you'll put me in a straitjacket before I can do that. Because what I realized at that stage is 14 years of studying the same thing, and I still did not even know half of it. I probably knew a quarter of it, and it changes every year. So it's like, what am I doing this for? And but there's a lot of fundamentals. So a lot of things I'm doing at the moment, which you'll be very interested in, is working in trusts with private trusts. And so the fundamentals of trusts and everything, I wrote a thesis paper on trusts in about 2003. And nothing has really changed since then, because trusts have been around since the 1600s. And so the tax department will find it very, very difficult, and this is what I argued in my thesis paper 20 years ago, that it's very hard for them to change any of the laws of trust because they've been around since the 1600s. They're firmly set in equity law, not tax law. Right. So I am doing a lot of work with trusts, private trusts to get around the inheritance tax and a lot of things like that. So it's getting quite interesting.
I can imagine the government's probably going to be reluctant to do anything with trusts because, as I've been informed, the government themselves hide all their money in trusts. So obviously then I don't see them wanting to do anything to save that. And obviously protecting their billionaire friends who continue to fund their campaigns is also high on the list. So, I mean, you got to wonder what the future looks like if everybody starts doing it.
So all of where trust came from was the elite. It was the bloodlines, the extremely wealthy. Back in the 1600s, you can only know what you know from movies and things, but you'd have very, very wealthy landowners that would own all the slaves. And so the idea of trust was when that wealthy landowner needed to go somewhere, maybe off to a war or needed to go somewhere, he would say to his second in charge or his best man or someone he trusted, can you hold my land in trust for me, for my beneficiaries, my kids, my bloodline, until I get back? And in case I don't get back, hold it for my bloodline. That's where trust came from. So the royals, the elites, they've been using them for centuries. So will they come and change the laws to try and attack trusts? I don't think so, because they'll be attacking their own wealth creation and wealth protection mechanisms. So
Seems to be the way to
but
go.
back to your original question, it's very difficult for the average person to get their head around all of this. So with Freedom Financial Solutions, we have a lot of clients that want to learn a lot. We give away a lot of free information, question and answer sessions every fortnight where you can just log on and ask me whatever. Our website has got free guides to everything. A lot of free information for people that want to research and read things. There's now on there a page about trusts and what they all mean. We have newsletters. But some people just come to us and say, look, Cass, you've been doing this your whole life, literally my whole life. I just trust you, just do it for me. And so, we have some clients, lovely little old ladies who don't understand anything, but they just say, we trust you, Cass, just go ahead and do it. So there's the pages on trusts and so we really love giving away the information. Both myself and Mary Jane, who's one of my business partners, we had basically both retired, but we came back to do what we're doing just because we love helping clients. We get so many testimonials and so many really happy people that they found us and that they've got, because anyone who talks to an accountant, they just walk away going, what does that all mean? And he didn't help me. He just told me I have to pay this much tax. People who talk to a financial planner get very disappointed because they're just being sold a product. If they talk to their accountant about investing in gold and silver, their accountant will laugh at them and tell them they're an idiot.
Really?
You know, so people are really happy to have
Sure.
found
I
us
got
where
a
they
high
can
school
have.
education, and I know that's bullshit. Like, come on, we know gold and
Yeah,
silver is a place to go.
yeah. But you know why nobody recommends it? This is the
They
one
don't make
reason why
anything out of
nobody.
it.
Exactly. There's no commissions on it. So I recommend it. I don't get paid for recommending it.
Yeah.
I recommend Ainsley Bullion is our preferred partner simply because they are like-minded. They're like us. They understand what we understand. So we
Okay.
refer to them, but I don't get any commission out of it at all. So that's why the financial planners and everybody don't recommend it, because they can't get money on it.
They're probably using it themselves, though.
Yet gold and silver have outperformed the Australian share market and the Australian property market since inception of us measuring it. So they are
Yeah.
the better asset class, hands down, and in my opinion, less risky because they're physical. Nobody can push a button and disappear them, yet
Yeah.
advisors won't recommend it. Go figure.
It
Go
just shows you
figure.
how bad
It's
the
just like the
system is.
medical industry. The financial advising industry is just like the medical industry.
They don't want to sell the cure, like when you can keep selling treatments.
Yep. And they only want to recommend what they get a little bit of commission on each time they recommend it.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
maddening. You mentioned that you seen things in the tax department that obviously made you quit. Are you able to give us any examples of that, or are you sworn to secrecy?
I was sworn to secrecy back then, but it's now I've sort of woken up and went, well, that was 20 years ago. I don't really give a shit. I don't really give a shit anymore. So yeah, I've got some detailed videos coming out about it. But yeah, basically, well, one of the things they did to me was that I published a paper on GST and basically how people could get around GST, avoid the GST. And this was back in 2000 when they were bringing the GST in, and it was very political. And they really wanted Australians to accept and adopt the GST and, not vote the government out just because they brought in the GST. And I wrote a
Even though they
thesis
said they
paper.
weren't going to.
Yeah, I wrote a thesis paper on how to avoid it. And it was such a good paper that the university wanted to publish it. And I was so excited, like I was only 25, thinking, I'm going to get a published author at the age of 25. Anyway, I got told in no uncertain terms to shut up and that I
Oh,
was
wow.
not to publish that paper and I would lose my job, my benefits, and possibly be prosecuted if I published my own paper.
Wow. And who
Yeah,
made this threat?
came straight from the commissioner.
Right. Commissioner of
Through my
Taxation?
manager. Yeah, through my
Right.
manager. And that was just one of three things that happened. But that was the linchpin, because that's when I went, hang on a sec, this is my opinion. It's not any inside information I've got from working for the tax department. It's not on any internal reports that are not for public release. This is just my opinion on
Yeah.
the law that's coming in. It's not, and the fact that they silenced my own opinion, that was the linchpin, because I just went, I can't work for someone. I can't be controlled in a way where I can't speak what's on my mind.
Yeah.
So that was the final thing that made me leave the department. And unfortunately, I can't get that paper now. I'm trying to get it off the university, but obviously 25 years ago, they wouldn't have it anymore. But yeah, that was when I left and just walked away from it all. There was a few other things as well that'll be on my videos, but actually one of them's worth talking about. Another one was I determined that there was a whole lot of people, a billion a year, walking out the door in GST refunds to people who didn't have a tax file number. And so I got really excited because I was a fraud investigator, and we were just allowed to data mine and do reports and just look at stuff to see if we could
Yeah.
identify trends. And I identified that, and I was so excited. I raced into my manager's office and said, "Look at this! This is $1 billion a year easily." And I was so excited, thinking I'd get promoted, get a task force, because I did think back then, in my naivety, that I was doing a good job. and that I was
Yeah.
working for the government. I was catching the criminals, and I was bringing in revenue. And our slogan, I saw it on my tax office thing yesterday, building a better Australia was the tax office slogan. So I thought I was doing a really good thing. And when I found that, I was really excited. And yeah, exactly the same thing happened. A few days later, the manager called me in. I'm excited. He said, close the door. I'm still excited at this stage because he said, close the door. I sat down, and same message. You are not to speak of this matter ever again, not to your colleagues, not even to your friends and family.
Wow.
And you will lose your benefits, be prosecuted. You are not to speak of this again. And it took them 25 years after I left to actually be exposed about this issue. It still happened for the next 25 years. There's an ABC program on it, and news releases on it last year.
Wow.
So that's how long. And but then you put two and two together about what I've been saying about there's no legal requirement for a tax file number. So what I discovered was people claiming a GST refund, they've got an ABN but no TFN. So they couldn't address my concern without exposing the fact that there's no legal requirement to have a tax file number.
Wow. So,
yeah,
I mean, just a little bit of logical deduction based on what's transpired here. I'm feeling like if you're running your own business and you scrap your tax file number, you don't really need to deal with the tax department as much, and you just outside of the reclaiming of your GST.
Yeah, so that's the sort of thing I'm looking into, because then, so this is part of some of the technical detail I'll come out with. If you look at how the legal requirement to lodge a tax return,
yeah,
it then talks about, well, if you've had tax deducted from your employer, you need to lodge a tax return. If you've had tax deducted on your interest in the bank, you need to lodge a tax return. So all the things where you've used your tax file number trigger you to have to lodge a tax return.
right.
So what if you don't have a tax file?
Yeah.
Tax return.
We've paused. Yeah.
Sorry,
Sorry, you
so
dropped out just for a second there. I think you dropped out right at the, if you don't have a tax file number. So
do you have to lodge? And if you don't have a tax file number, how can you lodge? Because you need a tax file number to lodge. Apparently you don't. Apparently you can put it on a piece of paper and send it to them without a tax file number, but then apparently they force you to get a tax file number. It is all just such a mess. But the number one question that everyone should be thinking to themselves: why is there no legal requirement to have a tax file number? Why didn't they pass a law requiring you to get a tax file number? It would be that simple.
yeah.
Why didn't they do it?
Well, obviously, there's a loophole that they've created there for a reason, and does it have something to do with free will? Perhaps, I noticed you on your page. You've also got that spiritual mentorship as well as another service. Is that something you combine in at this point, and perhaps theorize into that spiritual realm of the free will, which seems to be, some kind of a sacred law, but exactly much like everything else in this society, we're born into this world without an instruction manual. We've got to guess our way through what the actual rules are, but that fundamental principle does seem to be pretty important, and I can't help but feel that might be a contributing factor in some way, if not just a wonderful opportunity to create a loophole.
Yeah, exactly. So when I looked into, and I asked ChatGPT, I know some people scream, oh my God, she's using the devil, but I like having chats with ChatGPT because it can give you some really interesting information. I asked ChatGPT, why didn't they bring in a law to say you need a tax file number? And the answer was because they respected Australians' privacy and freedom and right not to have a number.
I like that
So
one.
it is getting back to exactly what you were just saying. It seems that in the fundamental foundation of the tax system was a right of choice and a right of freedom to participate or not participate So you don't, legally, they couldn't pass a law to require you to have a tax file number.
Yeah.
So there is no law, but then they just trick you into getting a tax file number. And then because you get a tax file number, you have to then do all these things, lodge taxes and pay taxes and everything, because you've got a tax file number. But you'd never needed one in the first place.
Yeah. And
Very
I mean, I
interesting.
recall in high school, we were 15 years old when they sort of, you know, queued us up and basically convinced us that that's what we had to do before. And we weren't given informed consent. So, I mean, from a certain point of view, to sign up for something like a tax file number when you're not even at the age of consent, you know, under duress and have not been given the full information, I don't know, I can't help but feel I was defrauded in some way.
Exactly. And then I've also looked into, well, can you get rid of your tax file number? And so far, the answer is no. Once you've got it, it's stuck with you for life. So what you just said, you were coerced into it. You were underage as well.
Yeah.
So, but they say you can't get rid of it. So that's another thing I'm looking into, is how can you get rid of it? And, you know, I am starting to see some ways through the system. What you said something before about, yes, people who are working in a job, working for the system, basically they're working for a big employer, so they have to quote a tax file number so they don't get taxed at the highest rate.
Yeah.
And then they have to work the job because they have to pay the mortgage, feed the kids, all of that. And I know
It's
a lot of
entrapment.
people are looking, a lot of people are looking at this angle is, well, you're in the system. So you're going to have to stick to what the system rules are. But what if we build our own system?
Yes, that I think is the what I see that happening all over the place. Everybody we're trying to, you know, as soon as the COVID 1984 thing happened, it's like, well, we're going to kick you out of society if you don't go along with this. Oh, well, fine, we'll just go sleep in the park. You know, I would rather sleep out in the bush than go along with this shit, was a decision that I made straight away. So that leaves us with, well, we've obviously got to create some kind of a parallel society within our own. And that seems to be happening in multiple facets. And obviously, you know, to create a society, you can't just turn around and go, well, I've got a tent and a bit of dirt over here. We're right. Let's go. It's a little bit more sophisticated than that, specifically, you know, in the age of empires where armies and militant forces are at work.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that I've been talking about a lot and created a lot of controversy, a lot of arguments on Facebook, is that the only way through this is working together.
Yes.
So all the division and all the crap that goes on about, oh, well, I don't like him because he said something 5 years ago, and I don't like them because they've worn the wrong jumper or the wrong pair of shoes or whatever. You know, we've got to drop all that shit and we've got to look at, well, what do we have in common and how can we make it work for us to come together as a society, a community, supporting each other, because we wouldn't have to work in the system and pay the taxes if we could come together, share our resources. You know, go back to the dark ages where there was no, you know, wages for a work. It was just like, well, okay, I'm good at this, so I'm going to do this for your family, and then you're good at that, so you do that, and then we can swap. You know, I've got too many potatoes, I'll swap it for your carrots. You know, going back to community and building and working together. But whilst ever people are stuck in the system, working those jobs with the tax file number, with big employers and basically feeding the beast, there's no way out of that. There's no way out of that.
Yeah, it certainly felt like indentured servitude every time you lob up to a lot of these jobs, you know, especially, you know, nowadays as, you know, quality goes out the window and, you know, part of your job is to contribute to a throwaway society whilst going home to the news and be told that, oh, look at the piles of rubbish. What a wasteful people we are. It's like, but that's the business model you guys set up. I've got no freaking choice, you know. I worked for a wheelbarrow mob at one point, you know, and, you know, people would call up looking for replacement parts, but the replacement parts were so expensive. It's like, well, I may as well go down and buy a new bloody wheelbarrow. That's the throwaway society we've created. Yeah, we've got replacement parts, but it's just no point actually fixing things. Back when I was a kid, we used to get the fridge fixed. It wouldn't even get the vacuum cleaner fixed. Nowadays, the idea of just talking to somebody to get a vacuum cleaner fixed outweighs the cost of buying a new one, let alone the repairs itself. So it is maddening to see what they've created, and then they continue to blame us for the system that they've put in place. What are some simple things people can do at this particular juncture in time to mitigate that theft made legal?
So what a lot of clients, so I've had a lot of discussions over the last, how long has it been? 5 years now, I guess, of just clients about, how to get out of the system. And overwhelmingly what my clients have been doing, not on my advice, but in conjunction with talking with me, simplifying their life. So I've had some clients that one of them was always memorable. They came to me, they were living in North Sydney somewhere. They had a $2 million house with a $1.8 million mortgage. They were both working 2 jobs to try and pay it. They had 2 kids in private school. They were paying huge school fees and no quality of life. They were both stressed. The marriage was on the rocks. The kids were rebelling and not happy. And, they came and said, what do we do? And I said, sell the house, pay off the mortgage, go live somewhere simple. They're like, oh, but it's the best school for the kids, and we want the kids in that school, and we have to live in this suburb if we want the kids in that school, and there's no houses any cheaper than this in this area. I'm like, oh well, good luck to you. See ya. Bye. You want to be stuck in the system? Stay stuck in the system. But then other clients have then gone, yeah, no, you're right. I'm going to sell the house. I'm going to pay off the mortgage. That's going to leave me $300,000. I'm going to buy a massively big, beautiful, Winnebago, and I'm going to travel Australia with the kids and homeschool them. And then when I've checked in with those clients 6 months later, they are the happiest clients. And a lot of clients. So my advice is simple: downsize to what you can afford. If possible, get totally out of debt. If that means downsizing really big time, just do it, because interest rates are now going to be skyrocketing. The pain they're putting on us is going to intensify. As we know, they want everybody to own nothing and be happy. So they will intensify the pain with interest rates. I got my insurance premium on my house this week. It was $8,000.
Wow.
So interest rates, insurances, rates, taxes, cost of living, they're going to put the pressure on everybody, I believe, until everybody loses anything anyway. So why not downsize now, get out what you can, simplify your life, get out of debt, just go live somewhere that you can afford to live right now, even if that's in a park. I mean, that's where we're heading anyway. Why not at least consciously choose it yourself and enjoy the journey, enjoy the process? And then once we've simplified everything in everybody's financial lives, we start rebuilding and building together.
Yeah. So that's a pretty good way to set forth. And obviously, I like the way you ended with, then we can focus more on rebuilding a better world, so to speak. Because while we're constantly running like hamsters on the hamster wheel, we're literally going nowhere, and they're just staring through the glass watching, going, "Isn't this a great show?"
And we're getting stressed, and we're getting more and more away from our own soul and our own creativity and our own ability to flourish. We're stressed and we're working so hard. It just dawned on me, the funniest thing. So I spent 20 years at university to end up telling people to sell everything and go live in a caravan.
Wow. That says a lot, like I'm still baffled, like, at the amount of time spent studying taxation to still not know it all. Like, and I mean, it's just so typical of the system in itself. We see the same thing in the legal system. It's just so horrifically overwhelming. They tell you the ignorance is no excuse for these things, but it's almost as if they've gone out of their way to ensure your ignorance. you can't tell me
And you
this is
know
a
that,
fair and just system when they've made it so complex that even after 14 years of university, you still don't have the full grasp of taxation. And what you did learn just got you in positions where shut your mouth or will destroy you. Like, wow.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, and as I said, I'm a rebel, so I guess I'm now using my energy and all my studies and everything I've ever learned to try and help people rebuild in a different way.
Mm.
Hmm.
Wow, that's pretty huge stuff. So where's the future move for Freedom Financial Solutions at this point? Are you happy chugging along where you're at, or are you planning to expand things? What's the future
Yeah.
look like?
So we've got a couple of different divisions, and Mary Jane is the one that oversees our self-managed super fund division now. She just still sets up probably 10 self-managed super funds a week, because anyone
Yeah,
listening out there that still has super in what I call the mainstream, it's on a
yeah,
digital platform that could easily be crashed at the push of a button. Get
and
it
we've
out
seen
into
that.
self-managed super fund, look after it yourself, and contact us for that. Mary Jane will do that. As I said, I'm about to leave the country. I'm actually flying to the Middle East.
Oh wow, what may I ask why? Because the amount of things that just went in my head right now, I'm just going to go with why.
Yeah, I've just been called to a journey that I had booked in 6 months ago, and it's not a holiday. It's actually a spiritual journey, and
Okay,
everything in me is telling me that I still have to go, and uh, chickening out of fear would just be against all of my principles.
okay,
So I have to rise to fear and go anyway. So at this stage, I'm flying out on Monday. So who knows whether I'll be back? But
yeah,
it's what I'm doing. But as for freedom, we will continue to tick away, because I can work from wherever I am in the world. I just need internet and I can work. So we're going to keep going. My focus at the moment is on trusts and helping people get around the inheritance tax.
yep,
So we've got a limited opportunity between now and May, I believe, to work on that. And
okay,
then after that, I will just continue to look for these little chinks in the armor of the department, which I believe I'm finding some of them, and I'm getting people contacting me all day, every day with more information, and we're sort of starting to piece together, hopefully, some solutions that I can present. And yeah, I wouldn't mind having a chat again as I start to unveil some of this, because it
love to
seems
have you
they're
on.
shutting down my platform, so I'm going to have to go on other people's platforms to get the message out.
Yeah, by all means, love to have you on. Again, that's the reason why I have multiple platforms, because unfortunately, as we've seen during COVID 1984, Facebook and YouTube in particular, we're big on the censorship regime. We know that YouTube being a part of Google, which is tied into CIA and all these other, government organizations, are just a big part of the propaganda machine. So, although
Yeah,
this is going to YouTube, I always encourage people to get away from YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, go and find a better platform, because there are times where we can't even put anything on YouTube because I know they're just going to take it down. And, I don't want to lose the channel. We want to make sure the voice still gets out there, but we have to
yeah,
filter the content to specific pages. So it's always a good idea to have other options available to you. And I'm sure the similar advice would be given in a financial situation too. You don't put all your eggs in one basket.
yeah, yeah. Except gold and silver.
Well, that's two different baskets, isn't it?
True, true.
So
With a little bit of platinum.
yeah, that jumped really quickly. It caught me by surprise. I had a little bit in platinum, and I thought, oh well, I need money at the moment because things that have not gone well for me, and back stuffed and all that. So I needed a backup plan, and I thought, oh, that's not performing. I'll sell that. And I think within a week of selling it, it doubled. I'm like, you bastards. Universe kicked
Yes.
me again, constantly getting kicked. So we might have to have an off-camera yarn about, some ways you can help me solve a few problems. But just trying to think. Well, obviously that huge amount of education is really I find fascinating. How much did you find the taxation knowledge you had intertwined into those various other enterprises, obviously real estate and things like that? Everything had, they've got stamp duty, taxes, and all these other things. I still don't understand a stamp duty on a house. Like, I'm not mailing it anywhere. Things get mailed to the house. But anyway, I can't fathom the logic. Perhaps you can help me out.
Yeah, no, it did all intertwine because in the end the company I was running before COVID was called Holistic Financial Solutions. So as that term says, it was the whole of someone's life. So someone could come to me and we could talk about, their tax situation and their business planning, but then also property portfolio, how to structure that to minimize tax, what sort of mortgage to take out, what sort of property to buy and where. So I used to help people build big property portfolios. I had my own property portfolio. I sold everything during COVID because once again, I just went, this is all bullshit. So yeah, all of the education really did help me help clients build wealth in the old world. So in the old way of things before COVID, and all my clients back then were happy too. Like when you look at, I've been in the business 30 years and I haven't got one bad review. So pre-COVID, I did a really good job with all that information and education I had. Then I just realized during COVID that it's all a load of bullshit and, striving for wealth and retirement, what for? Like, honestly, are we going to be here in 10 years' time with the way the world's going? So why save every penny for 60 or 70? I changed my way of thinking and now I still am using all of that education, but I'm just using it reverse about.
Yeah. Interesting. So from your point of view as somebody who's dealt with real estate, what's the real estate market looking like at the moment to you?
Yeah, unfortunately, and that's why I just said I sold all of my properties during COVID 2022. I think I sold all of them. And
do you regret that at all? Because, property prices have both gone through the roof in the last 5 to 6 years.
Yeah, property prices have done a good 10 to 15%, depending on your area. I put it all into gold and silver, which has done 200%. So no, I don't regret that decision.
Okay, cool. Fair point.
But yes, I believe property is going to crash as well. So people will argue me on that, and I could be wrong. This is one thing I definitely could be wrong on, because immigration is continuing to push up the prices. But having said that, what I believe is coming is the share market's going to go through an almighty crash. And when people start losing, because people could lose, anyone that's in the share market, I believe, is going to lose 50 to 80% of their money.
Wow.
So when that happens and everybody loses their wealth, even anyone in superannuation, and they think, oh, I'm going to be okay when I'm 65 because I've got, $500,000 in super. Well, then you wake up and you've only got 80,000 in super. So when everybody's wealth has crashed, people aren't going to be able to afford the $2 million homes. They're not going to be able to afford the second holiday home. The government's already changing the rules enough to make investment property not as viable. So when everybody starts saying, and the rates and the land taxes and insurances, when everybody just starts saying, I can't afford this anymore and starts selling, you know what happens? It's a no-brainer. The market will crash. Yeah. So not as hard as the share market. I'm only thinking maybe 20 to 30% in property, maybe more, but not as much as the share market. But still not a pretty picture, particularly for people who are very high in debt. So if someone's got, if someone's borrowed right up to, and the government lending right up to, 95%, it doesn't take much of a fall in the market and then increasing interest rates, and you're in a very negative situation.
Yeah, definitely. That investment's now becoming a problem.
Yeah. So I have a lot of clients that are definitely selling their second homes, their holiday homes, their investment properties. And some clients are even going as far as selling their own home and just going and renting somewhere just to wait till all of this blows over.
Do you think that's a reasonable strategy at the moment to just rent for the time being and see what happens?
Yeah, so a lot of my clients have sold their home, put it in gold and silver, and are just renting. Because if gold and silver skyrocket, property market crashes, you're in a good position.
Yeah. It's an interesting idea. A lot of food for thought there. You certainly got me thinking.
Yeah. it all depends on people's risk tolerances, and that's why like I can't publish anything that says this is the answer, because I also studied when I got sick of studying financial things after 20 years. I then went and studied neuro-linguistic programming, coaching, hypnosis, and all of the metaphysical concepts. So I've just finished my bachelor's in metaphysics. So, and that's why there is no answer to these questions, because everybody is completely different. What is your mindset? How willing are you to take risks? Some people just want to be in a home no matter what, and that's fair enough.
Yeah.
Other people are willing to sell their home and hit the road and just let the universe take them wherever. Everybody's different in their journey. And so when I'm talking to clients, I'm taking that side of things into account, as well in the discussions we have. And I guess when I'm coaching with people, I'm not giving advice. We are just having a conversation about, what do you really want to achieve in life? And if that's what you really want to achieve, well, then these might be the things you can do to help you get there.
Rightio. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, it's been one hell of a yarn. I've kind of gotten to a point where I think I've taken information overload in 1 hour, which is almost unheard of. I can get these things to go on for a long time. Usually everything's just really forthcoming. But I think a lot of the questions I have, I don't really want to ask right here, right now in a public forum. But yeah, I don't know. Any final things you want to say? We might just wrap this up and we'll get you back at your next earliest convenience.
Yeah, for sure. Just send me lots of positive vibes for my trip through the Middle East, and hopefully I'll come back with a lot of information to share.
Yeah, definitely. Best of luck to you. I hopefully survive to come back and do another show with us and keep us all up to date with what's going on. I'm definitely curious as to that spiritual journey side of things too. So you're always welcome to come in and have that kind of discussion. Is that something that's dealt with in the Freedom Financial Solutions, or do you have a separate platform for that?
No, that's really just me. And as I said, I use my metaphysical knowledge just when I'm talking one-on-one with clients and in the Q&As. So for anyone out there that wants to know more, on our website right at the top, it's got all our events. And on there, you can book in for a free Q&A. Go back to the homepage. Free Q&A every fortnight. And that really is quite entertaining at times, because it's basically just ask me anything about anything, and I'll answer if I can. So, if you want to touch base
to join.
Yep, they're free information sessions. And that one on the 1st of April, I have absolutely no idea where in the world I'm going to be. But we've put it on at a time zone that will sort of match. Probably I might be in Dubai or I might be in Bali. So I'll be able to make that time zone.
No worries. One final question just dawned on me. In that study of metaphysics and, the spiritual realm, did you notice perhaps negative spiritual energy surrounded in your former employment opportunities within the system, and even the way the system is built around taxation and various other economic laws? Have you made some sort of a correlation there?
Yeah, and we can end on this, because this could be the opening for the next time we chat. I think a lot of people are aware, particularly after COVID, that we are fighting a spiritual war that has gone on for millennia. And I seriously believe we're at the end of that spiritual war, and I also believe we're going to win.
Yeah.
So there is the dark forces against. There's the dark forces against the light, and I think there's so many more people on the side of the light now, and we're waking up. Every person that wakes up and spreads these news like we're doing right now has a ripple effect to other people, and then more people wake up, and the war's not over. We've still got a lot of work to do, and that's one of the things I'm going to Egypt for. We've still got a lot of work to do, but in the end we win, so that's pretty exciting. There's going to be some dark times. But we all need to hold the light and hold the positivity and come together as a human race and get through this.
Yeah, Egypt's certainly one of those fascinating places, obviously. And I think I seen a documentary a long time ago. I think it was in '99, actually. I think I might even have a copy of it on VHS somewhere. But they were talking about the tunnel going up to the Queen's Chamber sort of thing, you know, and how it kind of maps out a specific timeline, and, you know, how we're kind of at that point where it peaks and everything comes down to a small little tunnel before it enters into the I think it's either the King's or the Queen's Chamber, and there's ascension that goes along with it. And at that point, it kind of said, well, you know, in this 2000s period, there's about a 50 to 60 year period there that they map it out with the pyramid inch, that little tunnel is human race forced onto its knees and into a little, you know, a dark little hole that it's got to climb through before it can get to enlightenment. And, you know, as this COVID period happened and the 9/11 thing and all this shit from 2000 up until now, it has been pretty dark, and that prediction keeps us in that darkness for quite some time. Unfortunately, it was one of those things I heard. I didn't want to accept that as a reality, but as I'm seeing it play out, I can't help but go, well, there might have been some stock in that.
Well, that gives you a little bit of hint of what I'm doing in Egypt. I'm going to that King's Chamber, and we are going to be doing ceremonies in that chamber.
What popped in my head
for the benefit of humanity.
Well, yeah. We definitely have to
and
get
that's
you
why
back there.
Yeah, that's why when I've been scared to go, you know, I just keep rising to it and going, no, the fear is just the dark forces making me scared, and if I don't go, then they've won. You know, I have to go and do what I'm being called to do. Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, we wish you well. Hope it all works out, and we look forward to having you back here again in the future.
Yeah, no worries. Got a lot to talk about, so we'll talk again soon.
For sure. And if would you like me to share your private profile on Facebook? Is that where you're putting those videos up?
Yeah, that's fine. Yep, absolutely.
No worries. So I will put that link in the description for everybody to follow. And if you need further information on these things, please contact me at nqfreedomnetwork@protonmail.com. Thank you all for watching, and thank you very much, Cass. I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you. Talk to you again. Bye-bye.